Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, August 3rd. Over the next few days, we will continue to have moisture push north into the Great Basin. Today, thunderstorms will be mostly located across Nevada and Utah, with some isolated activity pushing up north later today, up into southern Idaho, and there could even be a few strikes up in central Idaho today. These thunderstorms will be a mix of wet and dry, but humidities are up and we will see some moisture out of these thunderstorms. Moving towards Sunday, you can see the moisture continues to push north with a better chance of thunderstorms in Idaho and continuing across Utah. We'll also have smoke the next few days, obviously impacting the northern half of the Great Basin. And winds will be picking up in parts of southern and eastern Idaho on Sunday, but relative humidity will remain a little bit elevated as that moisture moves north and above 20%. On Monday, we will see drier and breezy weather move into western areas of the Great Basin, so we will see some wind gusts around 30 miles per hour. And still some isolated thunderstorms across the eastern half of the Great Basin, along with smoke impacts in the north. Over the last 24 hours, we did have lightning over eastern Nevada into southern Utah and the Arizona Strip, and isolated thunderstorms also along the Sierra into parts of the Sierra Front. These thunderstorms were a mix of wet and dry, but really very light amounts of precipitation in most areas. Yesterday, we had a reported 10 fires for 454 acres, and you can see our large fires in these larger circles on the map. Over the last 7 days, we have seen drier conditions over southern and western areas of the Great Basin, and the only moisture really up into central and eastern Idaho, northern Utah, and Wyoming. Over the last 2 weeks, only these areas in northern Nevada and southern Idaho and northwest Utah have seen near to above normal precipitation, also parts of western Idaho. You can see the ERCs represent that well. With the drier conditions recently, ERCs have been on the rise over southern and western areas and still are above the 80th to 90th percentile in much of Utah and also are on the rise up in Idaho. However, we will see that moisture push north the next couple of days, so these ERCs likely will come down a little bit in some areas that especially receive some rainfall. Currently, our ERCs, if we look at northwest Nevada, which is where lightning will be moving into today, ERCs are above normal and heading above the 80th to 90th percentile. Similar conditions over in northwest Utah, definitely well above normal, above the 90th percentile. The satellite image from this morning shows the strong ridge of high pressure dominating the Four Corners area and that moisture pushing north into northern Nevada, northern California, and up into the Pacific Northwest. You can see quite a bit of cloud cover this morning, also some embedded showers early this morning. Our smoke impacts, you can see from the graphics today that smoke will generally be lifting north over northwest Nevada and much of Idaho, and then by Sunday push a little bit further north and east as the wind flow turns a little bit more to the south. Looking at our weather pattern for today, again, you can see that strong high pressure, plenty of moisture for those thunderstorms, so we do have a large area of high risk for lightning from western and northern Nevada eastward into Utah and also up north into Idaho. Relative humidity will generally be in the teens or above 20%, especially where we have that moisture in Nevada and Utah. And then we will see gusty outflow winds with many of these thunderstorms, which the biggest threat will be across parts of northwest Nevada, Utah, and then the far western side of Idaho. Temperatures today will drop a few degrees over parts of Nevada as that cloud cover is already around this morning with those embedded showers, and that moisture will continue, so we'll only see highs generally in the low 90s. Still 103 up in Boise, so still hot temperatures again today, even with the cloud cover, and then over 100 degrees in northern Utah. Looking at the thunderstorm potential, you can see, again, those thunderstorms over much of Nevada and Utah and very isolated up into Idaho. As we move into Sunday, that ridge pushes a little bit more to the east, a little bit more southwest flow pushing into northern California. So those thunderstorms will mainly shift eastward into central and eastern Idaho, northern Utah, and Wyoming is the biggest concern, which is where we have our high risk, but thunderstorms will still continue over southern areas of the Great Basin, but still be on the wetter side with continuous days of higher humidity. On Sunday, you can see relative humidity is generally in the teens and up in the 20s or above 20% up in Idaho. So where we have those gusty winds on Sunday in central and eastern Idaho and Wyoming, relative humidity will likely remain above 20 or 25%. Temperatures heat up a little bit in western Nevada from what we'll see today with the drier air moving in and drop a little bit over northern and eastern areas. You can see the thunderstorm potential, mainly the northern and eastern half of the Great Basin, and up in central Idaho near our large fires, definitely some potential for some rainfall, but probably still be fairly spotty. As we move into Monday, the ridge still remains in about the same position with some drier air moving into the far west along with breezy winds. So we do have some high risk bordering Northern California for gusty winds and low relative humidity. And then thunderstorms will likely continue over the eastern half of the Great Basin, but no high risk, as many of these areas will have seen multiple days of higher humidity and also some thunderstorms. So you can see for Monday that higher humidity in the east and still over central Idaho, but drying over Nevada. Wind gusts will be, again, strongest over the Sierra Front into far northwest Nevada with those low relative humidities. So we'll see what kind of lightning we get. Could see some holdovers or impacting any current fires in that location. Temperatures will remain in the upper 90s to low 100s across many low elevations in the Great Basin, with the exception of the far south, obviously around 112 down in Vegas. On Monday, we will see those thunderstorms further north and east. So we don't have any high risk for thunderstorms in Idaho, but we will be watching that as we could get a little bit more coverage on Monday than we will in the upcoming days. 3-day precipitation, again, very light precipitation. Most areas will get something with the exception of maybe the far south, but still very spotty with respect to anything heavier, and most of that confined to maybe the high elevations of southern Utah. As we move into Tuesday, we will see that moisture continuing in the south, but gusty winds and drier conditions spread further east and north up into Idaho. So we do have high risk for gusty winds and low humidity still along a small area of the Sierra Front on Tuesday, and then also up into the Salmon Chalice. And Wednesday, still drier air in the north, no high risk. Winds should be on the decrease, but maybe still a little bit breezier up north. And then Thursday, continuing thunderstorms in Utah, but still drier conditions further north and west. 7-day total precipitation, you can see the better chances of any wetting rains would be into Arizona and parts of the higher terrain of Utah, but very spotty west and north. And then the 8 to 14-day outlook showing still warm temperatures and that swath of above normal precipitation heading from August 10th through the 16th. But really, it's looking like the better chances of that above normal precipitation will really be confined to Utah and Arizona, and probably a lower chance as you get into Idaho and Nevada. And you can see this is the total precipitation accumulation from one of the models through August 16th. That includes what we're seeing now all the way through the middle of the month. And you can see, again, the better chances of that heavier precipitation is really over Utah. And again, not quite as much as you get further west. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.